right, brand babies. Y'all know I got shit to do today. And today I get to talk to Jason. I have never spoken to Jason one-on-one before, but I get to do it today. And the reason I'm doing this is because I love what Jason puts out and how he approaches compliance. And it's actually from the heart, which is so unheard of in the industry of hospitality. So I get to talk about that, but y'all know I'm gonna throw some brand shit in there when I get a chance. It's like double dutch. I'm gonna jump in and it's gonna do what it do. So stay tuned.
Hey, brand babies. This is Brandma's podcast, where we go in on personal branding without taking shit personally. Brandma's house is hosted by none other than the ghetto country grandmother. She's here to share her experience, expertise, and education in a way that takes you from brand baby to brand leader. So come on in and hold on to your bourbon, because Brandma's about to spill the tea.
All right, brand babies, you know it's all about you today, but then it's all about Jason because Jason is my new sweetheart. Y'all know I got a bunch of sweethearts out there. My husband does not get jealous, so we are all good. But then also Jason has a gorgeous husband, so he's not checking for me anyway.
Facts.
Oh, he's so cute. I went looking at all this. Yes, you guys are so cute. But anyway, like I said, what we're talking about today is y'all know I come from a hospitality background, and Jason is in hospitality, but he's doing it from a compliance standpoint. And if you guys know about OSHA and all of that kind of thing, that is a reality when you're out here doing business in certain industries. But then also, like I said, his whole brand approach is from, like I said, it's from the heart. And that's very strange. Even though we talk about hospitality, hospitality has lost so much of its hospitality till it's just like sickening. But Jason, baby, come on and introduce yourself and tell us about Arrow Up and all that kind of stuff. Let's get into this.
All right, let's get into this. Excited to be here. Jason Berkowitz, longtime restaurant operator, forever. Started off flipping Whoppers at 14 or 15 in Cleveland, worked my way up and love every piece of this business. They did kick me out of the kitchen multiple times, so I'm much more FOH than BOH, but as a chief operating officer, last time overseeing 1,200 team members, wow. I had to at least know enough to earn the respect of the heart of house and to be able to guide them and lead with them. About 5 years ago, launched Arrow Up Training with the idea of building safer and stronger teams. And we started off with anti-harassment training because that was becoming a mandatory course. And I had already provided it, believing that it was important both to cover your ass and to sort of set the expectation. But I saw a real opportunity to change it up a little bit and actually create something that was authentic and had a casual conversation and really just didn't look at everybody like they're the bad operators or whatnot. And so kind of gave people some space in the gray area to have some cool conversations. And it was awesome because then our approach was just interview people, talk to people, get their stories, right? Connect with real life situations, not these cheesy reenactments. And not to take anything away from these fantastic horses that are spending billions of dollars on Hollywood reenactments and they're so proud of it. I'm like, I don't know, just to have somebody tell you a story and how they felt. And we went that approach and took a real creative approach too, met an awesome creative director who helped. Because the idea is, how do you land a message? And you are incredible at landing messages and choosing your words. And I don't even think you choose them. I just think, you know, you're kind of like Steph Curry. You've worked on it so much that you just get out of the way of your shots and they land, is how I would probably describe it. And some of us have a proclivity for the vocabulary, and you carry it, and it carries the brand. And you nailed it, where we worked from compliance to safety, to development, to OSHA, to leadership, because at the end of the day, it's humans working with humans. And so our approach is, how do you take an empathetic approach? How do you set the expectations, but how do you add humans to it? And I think I've talked about a book in the future coming out, We're All a Little Fucked Up, is my philosophy. And so it kind of carries over. And yeah, at the end of the day, I'll land this plane and carry it to you, is it still all comes down to, how do we show up for ourselves and what do other people need from us and with us, and how do we help them?
I love it. I love it all. Because like I said, even though I would never want to own a restaurant again, hospitality is near and dear to me. It's why I love my husband. 20 years together and all of that kind of stuff. And he's still very hospitable. It was bred in him from his parents and so forth. And then having a Southern mother, it's like, so you wake up on Sunday morning, you start fixing breakfast, and then you start calling folks, come eat, come eat. And it's just that kind of vibe. And like I said, you taking that empathetic approach seems like it can bring some of that hospitality back. One of my pet peeves about the hospitality industry, more clearly more about restaurants in particular, I think a lot of them, they start and they build on concepts instead of on brand. Would you agree?
Talk to me a little bit. Unpack that a little bit more for me.
Okay, so one of the things that when we started our restaurant back in the day, we actually started in farmers markets. And so we built up our own personal brands, not knowing what we were doing. But then when I took a step back and I looked, restaurants, if you talk about an Asian restaurant, you're going to see Asian influence all up and through. There's the cat with the arm, or there's the Chinese writing on the wall. And there's all these things to let you know that it's culturally influenced. But then the recipes get watered down. Pisses me off. If I want to give me the hot shit, let me decide if I'm gonna eat it. But it's based on gitchiness and looking like you're Asian, or looking like you're Cajun, or looking like you're Mexican. But it's based on that look, but it's not really based on a brand, and that there's nothing at the heart of it. And when I really noticed it, and it was just a couple of years ago, we went to a place called Tia Betty's in Albuquerque. And when I'm like, Tia Betty got to have a story in here somewhere. And so we asked the cashier, oh, I don't know. You probably have to ask the manager. What kind of shit is that?
Yeah.
Everybody named Mom should know Tia Betty's story. But once we met the manager and found out it was the owner's, the Tia Betty was his grandmother, and heard that whole story, it just made the place that much more interesting. And it's like, why does nobody else know this story? It was just so sad. So it's like all of that has to do with the brand to me, and not just all the shit you throw on your menu. So that's what I mean, I guess.
Yeah. And that's what you and I talk regularly, at least together in a group, is the idea of tell your story. And how incredible, what a missed opportunity to tell that story, because then you're on their side, you understand it, you connect with them. I think, and it's conversations like these and podcasts like this that helps people see that there's value in it. That sometimes I think it gets lost along the way, where someone said, whether they felt it wasn't important, or whether they felt that it was pushing something to somebody else that they weren't going to feel important, is not their decision to make. And at the end of the day, to go back to, so I love to give people the benefit of the doubt and say, they probably just felt like it wasn't going to transfer or land, and they focused on items that they felt were sort of resonating. And really, because I'm sure they loved telling you the story and lit up knowing that somebody would want to feel it. So I love this idea of giving people permission to say, don't put the judgment on somebody else yet. Just speak what your truth is, speak authentically, tell your story, and just see what happens. They're not mutually exclusive to anything else. It's a yes and approach, but fold that in, tell people about it. Also, it's going to help with retention. It's going to help with customer. It's going to help with the employees buying into it. It all starts to make sense. And what we want to do in culture, right, is cult's the root of culture. I kind of believe and say, right, and I use that in a good way.
Yes.
Is what's messaging that goes the deepest, that has the deepest roots? What is such a weight that if you pick it up, it's hard, you need 3 people to lift it.
Yeah.
We show up on time because we're dependable, versus, okay, that's light. I can carry that. I can throw that into a balloon. It's gone. It floats away. Half the helium I sucked out already. And then you get to the story of where this origin and my family and my aunt and all of this, and where it comes into it is, that's heavy. That shit is heavy, right? So that's not moving. So let's just give them permission to move it forward and to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think because, especially in the restaurant industry, and in the proclivities that people have about working there now, I think not enough of that was brought in. So when people come, most people go work at a restaurant for a paycheck. No one comes for the brand. And it's very telling to me. I always judge a restaurant by if the employees actually eat there. And I'm not talking about on their breaks. I'm
Right.
saying, will they come back with their family and eat there? And if your employees don't even support you in that manner, it means there's nothing really spectacular enough. I'm just here for the money. And once I get my check and I get another person to pay me more, I'm leaving you. So there's nothing there that ties in to why am I here? If I want to tell more of this story, if I want to be, I'm not saying everybody's empathetic, but if I want to be part of this culture, how do I do that? And it's not by adding something else to the menu.
I love what you touched on. There's a couple of things to unravel there, starting with in the why and taking it back to the why and culture and all that that is and the weight of it. The key is figure out what you can shine like a bat signal in the sky and shine it first for your team.
Yeah.
When one of my last positions in operations as a COO it was a modern organic Mexican restaurant. And what was great was it had a real, first off, the organic food, and it was about taking care of your body and the earth and what we were doing. But secondly, it was a real flexitarian approach, which was vegans are welcome, all meat eaters, everybody's welcome. And the way that they designed the menu was everybody had to add, so it wasn't subtract. It wasn't my days on the road going to McDonald's. Can I have a grilled cheese? We don't make a grilled cheese. Can I have a cheeseburger? Hold the burger, you know? Right. And so it's not that. And like, it was this idea of, what are the basics? Okay, now we're getting to a protein. If you're building a bowl, a salad, a burrito, whatever it was, now we get to add something. Maybe it's a tempeh, a tofu, meat. All are welcome, all are included. And I was like, shine that. This is a philosophy of all are welcome. And you don't have to take a moment to say, can I substitute? Can I take something away? It's all additive. It's all a philosophy of yes and. And by doing that, we were attracting an incredible group of people who wanted to work with us because they loved what the theory was and the values and the purpose, all of it, health conscious, earth conscious, socially conscious. It was really cool. So I think anything that you can do to attract, and going back to the story, right, of Tia's, going back to that, anything that you can do that says, I understand why this place exists. I understand why they felt the need to start this, and I understand where I feel connected to it. So shine that out. Going to the team eating there, absolutely. And that comes to a few things, right? Are you making quality food? Are you having people work there who buy into whatever you're putting together with it? And then additionally, are you doing things to invite your team members in off the clock that inspires them to bring their families? Everywhere I've ever worked, from the finest of fine dining to the quickest of quick service, I've wanted to create created incentive programs and introductory programs that wasn't about come here, but we want you to bring somebody and we want you to feel like a mensch. We want you to feel awesome with your family. I got 3 kids or my girl, great. Bring your girlfriend and her best friend. Let's go. We got it. Because it becomes that, right? That why, and that you're attached to something. At the end of the day, everything comes back to, well, why and what's the purpose and why do I give a shit? And then we can layer everything else on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things we used to do is we used to have Sunday dinners at the restaurant. And what it was, because we were a barbecue restaurant, everybody that worked there had to bring something that was not barbecue. And so people got to tap into their passion of food, even though it's like, oh, we ain't got to make no beans, no greens, no potato salad, no mac and cheese today. And Neil and I, as the owners, we would serve them. It's like, we will make the bulk, we will serve you because we appreciate you. And so it was this opportunity for us to not have to boss somebody, so to speak, or even lead anyone. It's like, y'all gonna come to dinner or not? Sit your ass down, let's eat, and all that kind of stuff. And it would just be a fun time. But then it becomes, like I said, because it became a thing, people wanted to infringe on that. People like, oh, can we buy a ticket? We want to come to Sunday dinner. It's like, no, this is a family thing. And
That's
you are
great.
not invited. And so giving people that opportunity to feel like they're special enough that we're not trying to sell tickets to something that this is family related, it changed how how people were when they left. And a lot of people didn't want to leave, but they had to grow. It's like, sweetie, you got to get up out of here. But when you do your thing, when you do arrow up and you're doing all the compliance thing and you're doing the empathetic part, how is that changing the industry on your end?
For now, I would say it's first off giving them tools in a moment, right? I had the other day, I was talking to an HR leader. They're on their 7th location, all different concepts. And he called me up to tell me because he was like, this was so cool. I walked into the restaurant and I literally saw a supervisor as a bystander breaking a situation up.
Wow.
And he talked to him about it, and they had said to him, yeah, no, it's the course we took. And I kind of took some of their tools about how to divert and deflect this moment and kind of break it up a little bit. So that was an actual moment that somebody took from it. I was like, well, that's pretty rad, right? Another one is on our Zooms. What's great is in the courses we baked in and we switch them out. We'll put 6 people together and we'll talk through a situation and we'll get somebody to understand maybe that wasn't the cutest. So somebody coming around to was another example of probably joking about, can we get coffee now after work? Can we get coffee after work? Which I thought it was sort of funny on the way out the door. Wasn't so funny. And actually, I thought that I was kind of being cute and I realized I wasn't. A lot of it is also the gray area where we would share, like, again, you're not a bad person, but that text thread shouldn't go around, or I kind of didn't want to see that joke on your phone, and understanding maybe I shouldn't, maybe I'll hold that one back to people off the clock.
Yeah.
Those are things where it's helping everybody kind of come around. We have a segment in there, and I'm not going to say that I know firsthand in the restaurants where it's helping, but a segment I love is a friend of mine talked about their transitioning from she to they and feeling in their pronoun. And it was just this beautiful, honest conversation about how they felt going into the workspace and how it's about giving space, both from the person who's transitioning to say they need to be more understanding of people if they don't get it at the first time. So they were like, I get it if somebody calls me she a few more times and doesn't get, it's not like I said it, now you got to do it 100%. So there was this understanding, as well as for the operators to understand, to build a space that sort of, if they caught somebody saying it, don't scold them, but just sort of introduce the little moment and say, hey, that, this person's now going as they. Just, you don't overdo it, but you kind of create the space where everyone feels like they're transitioning, or sorry, belong. Not everyone feels like they're which becomes a whole right-wing conspiracy. No, but I'm not getting into that. But here's what was cool. A learning develop, an L&D leader from one of the companies that we distribute the courses with called me up and she said, my 10-year-old came home asking me about this. And so what I did was because 10-year-olds are sophisticated. I mean, and she said, I literally put her on my lap and went to that part of your course and played that little video because it's this wordscape and it's soft and it's cool and it resonates no matter where you are in a generation. And she turned to me, she was like, okay. Yeah, she's like, I don't fully get it, but I get it now a little bit more. So to answer that question, right, it's planting seeds that allow people to say, well, I'm ready to listen to this, and giving them something that they can attach to and they can gravitate to and they can grab onto. That's just one thing. Now, I want to land this plane, but what we can talk about afterwards or not is then there's habit building. I think you can, it's big. That's why we do with checklists. You can spend all the time in the world getting a 20-year-old cook to tell them why it's important to wear an oven mitt. But if you don't have a system in place, so when the buzzer goes off, that mitt is where it needs to be, then talk's on sale. You haven't set them up for success. So I just think there's a combination of, you can ask of something, but you got to set them up.
Yeah.
So there's habit building, there's the why, there's the how. That's really gotten into it. And then, but we can talk when you're ready in this conversation. I'm obsessed over supervisors, the 21-year-olds who know it's wrong, but don't know how to have an awkward conversation. So giving them the tools, That's next step.
I'm a 16-year-old, so trust and believe. It's like, man, it's like, Morgan, why'd you leave that there? Well, where'd you want me to put it? Where it belongs. But where does it belong? It's crazy. And she stays locked in her room all day. My daughter's homeschooled, so she stays locked in her room most of the day. And she comes out, where's dad? And I know the only reason she's coming out because she's hungry, because she wants her
Right,
dad
right,
to feed her. So
right,
this is why
right,
she doesn't know where anything goes in the kitchen. So what does
right.
daddy do? Every time he comes home with the groceries, come get your ass up out of bed, come get these groceries, put them in the house, and let me show you where they go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's still, she still will not, as much as her as hospitable as this house is, that child will not cook for herself. She will eat cereal and Pop-Tarts until somebody goes and picks some food.
She's running the opposite direction, right? It's like, right? You know that people who go the complete opposite direction of their family at times.
Yes, yes. So the other thing when you were talking, it made me think about like all of these different opinions that are showing up on TikTok. And mind you, I gave up TikTok. I only got sucked in because Sean dared me to get on TikTok.
Me too. And I put it back, I put it away for a little while. And I'm just, and I'll get the little text or the little message of something to check on, and I'll check on quickly. And I'm like, no, now I'm going to doom scroll. I don't want to do that.
Yes. But when I was on there and I would see people having, or different younger managers talking about their experience in the restaurant industry. And I couldn't say that they were wrong, but then some of their approach to how they handle situations. How do you think that plays out for what you do versus what they said, and if it even matters?
It matters. And funny enough, am starting, where bringing somebody on board on the team, I'm looking for that person to help scour the internet more and more beyond Reddit and TikTok to sort of look for real specific examples of what's going on and how we would all address it, and to look at it from a multi point of view, because there's nothing like just a real experience and to
Yeah,
talk about it.
yeah.
So I love that. Um, I think learning with them, and then whether taking it and then we sit and we comment on it and we all talk about it, whether it's recreating something through conversations, whether it's just general interviews. I think it's unbelievably important. And so we're obsessed with the first courses, and we finish these courses and what's interesting is I didn't know it'd become this popular, that all of these companies are starting to reach out to us because they understand your supervisors are your biggest liability and your biggest opportunity.
Yeah.
70% of people quit because of their managers, not because of the restaurant. And you have a lot of managers that are unsupported, so you've got to take care of them. Managing restaurants sucks more now than ever, or than a long period of time when I worked in them. So you have to put some systems in place, and that's other things to talk about. But to go back to your question is, I think it's giving them stories, taking these stories, finding the ones that have constructive value to them, not just complaining, right? I was on Reddit searching for all these stories of servers, and they all just were complaining. And it was like, all right, that's not going to do good. All right.
Yeah.
And you can rehash how they did it. But going back to what I was saying is, in the courses, we're starting with me. How do I take care of me? Okay, well, what's the power of balance? Wow, what's the power of breathing? How do I show up right? Wow, you're right. This is physical. Maybe I should stretch before I go into work. Oh, the amount of water I drink actually matters. Okay. Effective communication, de-escalation. Here we go. Just this tip. Somebody's going to, if you disagree with somebody, if you start off attacking them or telling them they're wrong, their brains are going to shut off. That's it. It's survival. You're now enemy. So if you can just literally forget if you even are empathetic to them, show empathy and just start with, oh my God, I totally get that. Here's what I'm thinking. Just immediately the brain switches to, well, wait, you're on my side? Like that nanosecond of, wait a minute, you're not calling me a son of a bitch, right? It's like the tools of that, just to literally know that, to how to, I love it. There's somebody, an 18-year-old said, how do I tell somebody they're doing something wrong without saying you're doing something wrong? I just don't want to be that friend and coworker.
Mhm.
Somebody else taught her, okay, here's what I do. If the time when you feel it, because you've got to say it, is, hey, notice you've been doing it this way. I used to do it like that. Somebody once showed me this way, and it's been working for me a lot better. So I just kind of wanted to show it to you, just like somebody showed it to me.
Mhm.
And it worked. And so she's been practicing this, and it was this idea of, oh, you're right. I have to manage how if I'm embarrassing them, what are the words? So
Yeah.
to me, it's about introduce the idea and then give them the tool. Give them the tool. Agree. Enter softly. Enter communication with talk to me instead of telling them what you think is wrong. Like these are
Yeah.
practical things.
Yeah. And you say that, and I know I'm a negative speaker in that normally when I say something, when I'm trying to do good or point something out, like, if you do that, this is I always tell them the bad thing that's going to happen instead of, and so I recognize that and I try to adjust it sometimes, and sometimes I just like, fuck it, we just won here today. But then it's like you saying all of that, and I constantly tell people I can look back on my restaurant experience and see how much money we left on the table. But it's also in listening to you that we don't recognize that they're when we talk about brand touch points, they are even in the processes that we're creating for the business that we have. If you recognize that this is part of the brand process and the people that are within, it's like, what, you're a touch point. You're a touch point for the brand. And I want you to feel a part of that. So what the hell does that mean? When I pick up this spatula a certain way and I spin it, that becomes like, that's a brandable touch point because someone is visually seeing you. Or when you walk out and everybody's kind of like, everybody has this thing like, oh, everybody comes out and sing happy birthday. That's a brandable touch point. But it's like, it's been done so much and it doesn't really mean anything to anybody except maybe the person that's singing happy birthday. Does it even mean anything to the people who are singing? And so does this touch point hit on multiple levels, or is it just, you know what, I'm just doing my job? If we don't teach, I think if we don't teach people what it is to be part of that, especially in hospitality, then a lot of it, like I said, we all end up in this crazy mix of nobody wants to do this anymore. And so we're seeing a lot of automation in the restaurant industry. And I'm not mad at it. I probably won't support a lot of it, but I'm not mad at it because I understand nobody wants to do this anymore. I went into a Taco Bell, and the guy, I think he had been there all of, after I asked him, maybe a week or two. And I sat there and I watched his manager because he had given my order away. And the manager cussed him out. Do you hear me? He's like, what? And threatened him and everything. And I'm like, are you serious? And I'm sitting here watching this as a customer, and you're just losing your shit.
Yeah.
But I understand that, Taco Bell is having a hard time hiring, so they're going to keep both of these guys.
Yeah.
But like you said, the one dude's going to end up quitting because you
Sure.
didn't recognize that as a brandable touch point of this is how we handle this situation in this particular Taco Bell.
It's how do we handle it? I would go into that talk. So there's a couple things, and this is the problem in talking in this conversation is I got 5 things I want to talk and I don't want to overspeak because
Sweetie,
I
speak on. I'm good.
and so I'm going to write down one thing to remember, but that I'll get to. I want to go into that. And so anybody who's struggling with that, the first thing I want to say is, okay, well, wait a minute. Why is the manager yelling? First off, if they didn't inspire or teach or something, that's on the company, but let's take the human who's at the top or somewhere in the management position. Are they tired? Because I know it's a shitstorm right now trying to manage. Okay, what can we get off their plate? What are the bookends? Does the manager need to literally be the last person to close up shop? Is there a way that somebody else can do it and I can get them out the door? And then I give them 30 minutes of their time back to go home and sleep. Are they doing something that's not automated? Taco Bell is as automated as you can get, but is there something in the process that's missing? Do we need to look at it and say, maybe we pay the middle levels a little bit more because we're going to save the money on turnover. And that's why it's not just about labor as its own percentage or dollars. It's how does everything affect each other at the end EBITDA and all. And I want to go in and really say, let's first talk about why are you losing your shit on somebody about this, right? What are you scared of? What happened? What environment's this? So we come at it emotionally. Right? Why do you feel like, because a lot of this comes from anger, growing up in an abusive household or something that they've carried over and they haven't worked that through in therapy, or they're exhausted. Yeah. And how do we take care of that? And then also, where did we miss the brand touch point for this individual? Sorry if that's a little loud. How do we miss the brand touch point of this individual that we could have taught it, and how do we reteach them? You can teach things once, but now that person's only been there a week and a half, but it's about, so one of the things our system does is micro messaging so that you don't have to micromanage. So I think it's about, so we recycle every 90 days these memes and GIFs and different things that are reminding people about first in, first out, or hold the glass, you know, you were talking about a brand, hold it at the bottom 50, not at the top, right? And all of these little things, because people are going to forget. And then somebody has to micromanage them. And so now you got a manager who were told that they have to build, that they should build relationships and get people smiling and have people like each other at work. Not too much, but like each other enough at work. But now you've got to have that awkward conversation of, you know, you put the rag outside the sanitizer bucket, it goes in the bucket. Well, why don't we recycle those constant gentle pressure moments and do it through micro messaging? So I look at it like systems, and how do we check the box and we put everything in place? Talking to your audience and looking at it like a brand, stepping off compliance, but coming back, because again, it all comes into play. I loved going into new restaurant openings. And when we were opening up the last one, where we were opening up a lot, I would come in just for a period of time, and I would do the first day sort of, or whatever it was, sort of training, a little bit of touch points and getting into it. And this is how we hold the glass. This is how we do things. And what I would say to everybody is, this is a play. This is an art installation. I want everybody right now to know that you are players in an art installation. The music, the vibe, the colors, the texture, the taste, the way we do things, all of those are a character that does something. And we've figured out the code that makes it all come together, that somebody just sits there and feels the trust. So only 1 out of every 100 people might notice, or 1,000 people might notice that you touched the rim of the bottle to the rim of the glass, but they noticed. And so we're helping you notice for them, or hugging the guest, not hugging them, but how you drop plates, all those little things that you're talking about. I would come in and I would kick this off with, it's an art installation. It's a play. You got to play your part with that. And you can't just choose. This is an improv. There's improv moments. You get to be yourself, right? But they would kind of get it with that. So I loved introducing it in that way.
Okay, so what made you leave hospitality to do what you do now? Who
Um,
pissed you off? No.
no, it's funny. I'm great at taking companies to about 20 units, and then I'm awful at taking them beyond, because then it's just all, you know, you've raised your capital, you raised your 20 million, you did something. It just goes beyond what I have fun doing. I saw this opportunity to build a central streaming platform that can then take the culture that I love to build and scale it to all of these restaurants. And so it's not that I left, it's that I saw a way that I could take all that I've done and just scale it. And I will own restaurants again in the future, and that's our, you know, retirement plan. And I will, I still help advise a little bit with some concepts that I love, that are like, we got one great unit, how do we get to 5? Okay,
Yeah.
you know, and I still am a board member on the Independent Hospitality Coalition. I felt like I could be more useful in more scalable ways. I'm very involved in advocacy, especially out in Los Angeles, and sort of, I know where the sausage is made, so I know how to fight for the rights. And so hospitality is, I'm here, and I miss the floor. I do. I really
Do
do.
you?
I really do.
Oh my God.
Introducing Branding Boundaries and Bullshit by the one and only Brandma, Phyllis Williams-Strother. Hey, you there. Are you tired of all the boring personal branding stuff? Well, my mom, Brandma, has got you covered with her awesome new book. In this game changer, Brandma doesn't play by the rules. She's a rebel who says you don't have to fake it to make it. No more being a people pleaser, because it's time to get real. Look, my mom's been there, done that, just like Pitbull, except she was a multi-million-dollar restaurant owner. She's got all the stuff to let you know what's real and what's just okie doke. This book isn't for the corporate crazy. It's for the courageous, the genuine, and the unapologetic. It's about putting you first and not some fake customer pleasing it, because this is not the circus. Branding boundaries and bullshit is like a fist pump to those who refuse to conform. It's your map to discovering your YO uniqueness and owning it. So ditch the BS and start branding on your own terms. Get Brandma's book now and let your true self shine through.
I would probably go in anybody's restaurant and be a hostess. That would be my dream job, just to come in here and eat, baby. What you gonna do? And just having that conversation and seating people and watching them enjoy
You would be the
food.
best.
But like I said, to go back into owning something like that, it is just not in me. I should not have owned it in the first place. I appreciate that I had the opportunity, did very well. But like I said, just looking back and understanding what I built and how basically almost the odds are stacked against most restaurants.
Mhm.
And they don't even see it. It's like we pass a couple of places. I'm like, why would they put something that big in that corner? And I see these things and it's like, and you want to help everybody, but not everybody wants to be helped. And so you got to shut up. And so I shut up a lot. But like I say, being a part of the group that we're a part of and behind the scenes and chatting and hearing everyone, it allows me to stay connected to hospitality, because I
That's cool.
think there is so much still to be done. One of the things I fuss at Neil all the time, he bitches about restaurant prices. I'm like, dude, you own the restaurant. If anything, they're not charging enough.
Right.
And it's like, and mind you, my husband does all the cooking at the house. He does the grocery shopping. He said,
Yeah.
but I know how much that shit costs. I
Yeah.
said, but you're not trying to pay rent with it. You're not trying to pay employees with it. You're not trying to pay workers' comp with it. You're not trying to play triple net with that. So shut up and go pay the man his money.
Yeah. Right. Well, if you know how much it costs, right. So it should be 75% at least more than what you paid for it or not, right? If we're doing a food cost of 25%, we're looking at it this. And I'm just saying is, you know, you
Yes,
start
yeah.
to look at it in that way. By the way, it's funny is, I mean, my book is called Please Don't Sleep with the Host. So you'd make a fantastic host. And then I love it. I love it. You picked that one because you know that's the weakness, right? Because
Yeah.
the host is the most social,
Yeah.
and having fun and getting to know everybody and
And when I was growing up, I never had a fast food job. And the only way I ended up working in a restaurant is a friend of mine. She used to work for Roscoe's on Main in Manchester, and they needed a hostess. And people don't recognize that's a powerful position, because people will come up and I guess in fine dining, it would be the maitre d'.
Mhm.
But those are the people that get you the best seats, they get you the best staff, they get you the best, making sure they're actually your extended waiter or waitress or whatever the term is nowadays. But it's amazing how much people devalue those positions. And it's like, you guys don't recognize when I hear people complaining about their restaurant experience. Yes, some are terrible. And mind you, and I'm one of those people, I stop tipping all the time, because we just went to the Waffle House yesterday. And instead of tipping our attendant, I tipped the kitchen. That chick was back there working her ass off. And I don't know if tips were shared or whatever, but my tip went to her. But then there was another person in there. She, again, was not our server. I gave her my name and number. I said, sweetie, if you want to start a business as a consultant, I got you. Because she was just that fucking fantastic at what she was doing. And it's sad that a lot of missed opportunity to grow someone into a position is missed because you're just looking to fill a position.
Yeah.
This woman had the wherewithal to go out and do server training. But no one ever see that, because you know what, you gave her a pen and a pad and you told her to go take an order.
Yeah.
And because I saw more than that in her, and I saw the cook, our server, granted, she had just started because they were still training her and all that kind of stuff. But even the person that was training her was not on par with the lady that was not. And you get to see these different things and you get to experience this. And these people don't know how their skills can translate into something else. So I'm telling y'all better appreciate your restaurants, because yes, you're gonna get some shitty service, but when you get it right, it's the best thing. It is
It's
the
a
best.
heartbeat of the community too. I mean,
Yes.
that's where my passion lies. It's why I'm part of all these boards and foundations and different things, and where my focus is I learned to show up on time. I learned how to work through challenges that I had. I learned how to interact and socialize better. All of these things I learned at my local shops
Mm-hmm.
growing up through there. And I think it's a vital point of the community. It's an unbelievable point. And so, and sometimes you have piece of shit bosses and you learn what not to do. And sometimes you have great ones and who really care and take care of you. And it's just an unbelievable experience. And it's vital and it's needed, as you said. So take care of your restaurants.
Yeah.
We need them. And what's 1 in 3 in Americans, I think, work at the jobs. And you're right, you learn these transferable skills. A project that I'm working on is, and Sean's helping with this, we're going out to raise sponsorship because I want to create the basic 101 training of every position and then give it away for free to everybody.
Wow.
I want every server, every hostess, because I want them to know the little tips and tricks so that when you walk in day one, you've got a little bit of confidence and a
Yeah.
little bit of pep in your step, that you know what you're doing. Therefore, you're going to bring your most authentic, true self. Like, there's so many things that I overcompensated and I just wasn't me because I was nervous because I didn't know. And if just somebody would have told me it, now you're right, maybe you're not ready to
Yeah.
learn or whatnot, or there's the right time and place. And you can't overload them with information, but
Yeah.
there's just tons of stuff that I didn't learn. I wish I had learned sooner. And it's just showing them, it's calling them out. So that's one of my big goals and dreams. And I don't want to charge businesses for it. I want to get it out there. They can share their brand inside of it. They can parlay, overlap. But yeah, let's get to the basics of everybody.
Yeah.
No one wants to see them hold a glass like this. Okay. Everyone wants, right? How do you greet somebody when they walk in the door? We talked about that. It was one of the posts on LinkedIn, right? It's how are you or not. It's one of my things. It's just at least introduce it and
Yes.
and see how do they carry over. One of the reasons I love it, the supervisors is training supervisors, is that it does carry over very much because you're really talking about communicating and connecting with other human beings. So it's managing yourself, managing others. Those skills really do transfer over, and that's why
They
that's one of
do.
those things that I
They
love.
do. And it's I think if hospitality went back into hospitality,
Mm,
a lot of the industry would change. But because there is an unrealistic expectation sometimes put on people who work in that industry, is why it's so devastated. And especially for restaurants, because one of the reasons why I pivoted was just shortly before the pandemic like really took hold. I started seeing the small mom and pop places closing.
yeah,
And I knew there was no loyalty there because everybody that was going there was now going through all the drive-throughs.
yeah,
Instead of trying to find a way to, you know what, I still want to support your restaurant. I'll take a delivery or I'll do something. No one was trying to save them. And this is another reason why I started to notice that most restaurants do not have brands, they have concepts. So you threw up all the get you shit, and now nobody really supports that. Oh, I'll just have to do home delivery, or now you got Blue Apron and all the rest of them trying to deliver shit to your door, because no one is really loyal to the restaurants that are the backbone, like you said, of their neighborhoods. And because now these type of jobs where once upon a time it was your kid's first job, but now these jobs have to support families.
mhm,
And no one is considering this. I saw a thing where somewhere in the Bay Area that the woman was pointing out all the businesses that closed, and the Raising Cane and the Chipotle and all these restaurants that closed in the Bay Area, and nobody wanted to pay a living wage, so nobody wanted to stay. So all this crime was happening, and it was just a catch-22 type of
yeah,
scenario.
yeah,
It was crazy. It was crazy.
yeah.
So go ahead, sweetie, go ahead.
No, just that's what it is. The doors close, for rent signs go on. You've got pieces of the broken window theory, which Malcolm Gladwell, some have proven, some haven't, but it's still, at the end of the day, when shops are vacant, it's not great for a community to have empty storefronts. You
Yeah.
don't have people working there. You don't have people protecting there. You have an increase in crime. Right? So it's reasons to keep it open. I'm diversifying this year, going back to, we're still going to be pushing Arrow Up. And by the way, one of the things, speaking of brands, is something we started to do during the pandemic, and we're going to start to bring back, is if you show up and you do the checklist, you do the training, you get a logo in your window. And now you have to, what does that logo mean, right? So the reason I didn't push too much is it takes a lot of effort to add brand on top of brand to mean something.
Yeah.
But for people want to know where they should work. People want to know where they should eat. People want to, everything starts to come together. So I see an opportunity to create a central symbol that sort of says, this is not only a safe place, this is a humane place,
Oh,
we give a
wow.
shit, right? I want Arrow Up to mean, you see that in the window, it just means we give a shit.
Wow.
And so you like that one.
I do, I do.
And I got the window decals from the old one. So I'm getting the new ones made. We're gonna start slapping them on some of the places and just kind of get it started, right? It's just a little symbol. So that's something. The other thing I was going to touch on diversifying is I helped open up so many different restaurants in my career, and I have a great playbook. So I'm putting together a step-by-step how to open up a restaurant, but a lot of people have those, but this is using the critical path to opening that says, these are the steps that you need to do. This is who's responsible. This is the anticipated opening date. If you do not do X by this date, that date shifts.
Wow.
And to me, I always bridge and connect the philosophy and the loving, and I'm the, you're the brand mother, I'm the gay Jewish mother. And so it's kind of how is my little brand to my teams of, and once I started to own that, the back of house was like, fuck, this is great. Okay, we can't, I jumped on the sword on the playground. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna make fun of? That's it. I'm owning it. And so the idea that I interconnect is, let's be humane, let's be loving, let's be California, but there's accountability, and let's track this shit. What needs to get done? Who's responsible for it? And are they doing it? So that's why I'm a huge fan of checklists. And I want to give this to restaurants to help them open up. And I'm starting to really work on this more and more because I have it. It's just finishing it. This is the path. This is what needs to do. This is who's responsible. There you go. Because far too many restaurants have thought that they're going to open up in September, but they really didn't realize that you're not opening up till November at earliest, maybe December. Now you got to think about, do you want to try to open up over the holidays?
Yeah.
You didn't get it. And then you hired people too early. So now you just spent $5,000 a day of keeping people around that are doing nothing and all of this type of stuff, whatever it is, 2,000, whatever your situation is. Now you're in the hole. Now you have to rehire people. They left their jobs because they trusted you. These little accountability tools where you agree on something matter. And I'm going to source our community, yourself, other people. So when we get to design, right? If they want, they'll have a choice of people to pick in their local community of who to go designing with. But maybe there's going to be horror stories of pictures of somebody that put stuff that was just far too big, as you mentioned. Why would you put that over there?
Yeah.
And it's just showing them when they get to the next step, if they want to see it or not see it. I think that can help because a lot of restaurants, they open up so far in the hole.
Oh my God.
That they're just climbing out of debt. What if we can take a couple zeros off the bottom line of the debt that they're coming in? That will make all the difference. And I see it. I really see it. That's a purpose. That's getting me out of bed.
I love that. I love that. Because I know when our first attempt at opening a restaurant, we were about 20 grand in before we decided to walk away. It was a $20,000 lesson.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know. And I think that's what scared me from doing it again. But there's not enough knowledge out there about how to open a restaurant. There's a lot of restaurants that open, but there's not a lot of knowledge. Like you just said, there's not a checklist. There's not okay, what order should I do this in? And then people who are barely surviving are giving out bad information. And it's like,
if you can't teach.
Oh my God. And it's like, but you didn't tell me that you were barely hanging on, and it's like you're 1 month's rent away. Oh, and then let's not talk about the rents and the build out costs, and if you got TI money and all of these other things, and all of these things have to be considered. And just going to put up a hole in the wall, and now location is not an issue. It's not about location, location, location. It's like, sweetie, seriously? What are you gonna do that's different? There's 5 hamburger stands around here. Oh, well, I'm gonna capitalize on the foot traffic. No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not. Foot traffic is a selling point by the real estate agent. It does not always translate into you making money. Not at all.
And there's advice out there, and sometimes the advice is not where, sorry, one sec. There is, okay, here we go. Back in, cut, and here we go. Foot traffic. Wait, what were we talking about? Rewind. You threw me off. Sorry to make you cut this. Oh, here we go. No, here we go.
Go ahead.
And a lot of times people are getting advice from podcasts and different things, but it's, where do they source that information? Where do they store that information? And so it's difficult to have it when you need it. That's why I like a step-by-step, and then putting little videos and little things, and let this source from the community. Oh, I made this decision now. Okay, now I'm ready to absorb the information based on that decision, as opposed to I listen to something, and I love all these podcasts that are out there. We are very important, and so you need it, and I'm all for it. I think it's an and in addition to when I'm ready to get certain bits of information, especially for something that is so dynamic as opening up a restaurant. Talk about building a brand. They're doing it. They're going to come to you. You get into restaurants, there's just so many steps that you're not ready to absorb until you're ready for it.
Yeah. And when people, and even with us in opening our first and even our second, but what it was is that people started coming to us to open a restaurant before we were probably ready, because they saw that we had gotten press. They saw that we were always in the news, and it's like, oh, well, we want you to come over here. And what they want is they want you to be a draw for other restaurants that are there. They're trying to capitalize on any little celebrity that you gain. And like I said, that was a big ass lesson. And it happened to us like 3 times. Like I said, the first time was a $20,000 lesson. The second time, it's like, you want me to do a $300,000 build out? Where's your foot in this? I'm not doing that.
Right.
I don't get to own any of this if I walk away after the 5-year is up. So I'm not investing $300,000 to build out your shit, and then you get to keep it all.
Yeah.
And people don't understand all of the things that go into renting commercial property. So there's all of this missing knowledge. And like you said, doing the 25 versus 75 and what you're doing your prices on. Sweetie, if you're paying this amount in rent and you know how much you're paying per square foot, if you did not factor that in the price of that burger, trust and believe you're gonna be eating that burger your damn self.
It's it. I can't tell you how many chefs I said, take me out for a beer and watch me break your heart or something like that. And I'm like, we're just going to take your concept and we're going to put it on the back of a napkin. And we're going to sit there for a couple drinks. And we're either at the end of this, I'm going to tell you either this should hold space in your creative brain or not, or this is what you have to go back and look at. And a lot of times it's the best service you can do to somebody is just sit with them for a second and go, cool. Okay. Let's actually look at this. Let's look at this through labor. How many burgers? How big of a plancha? How much space do you need? How many burgers can you cook? Okay, per hour. What do you think the demand is? Okay, let's actually look at this really quick on the back of a napkin. This is what your take home. This is this. How much can you make a year doing? Oh, shit, I can make money doing.
That's why people are running restaurants out of their own kitchen.
all of that, right? And they're like, oh, but I'm going to build and I'm going to grow slowly. Very possibly. Just talk to somebody to figure out what that looks like, what that really looks like. I thought the CPG, consumer packaging game, was, okay, you start with 5 sauces, you grow to 10, you grow to 20. That is so rare for it to happen that way. It is a raise as much money as you can until you get out of debt because you built your brand. I'm like, because I talked to somebody, I had an idea, and I talked to somebody that knows a lot more than I do and said, okay, thanks.
And
I'm out.
Not, we came from barbecue competitions, and there are a lot of barbecue competitors that make their own rubs. But then they turn around and package them for the sake of vanity because no one wants to build a brand or market it.
Yeah.
And it's, you've been doing this and you've been winning or you haven't been winning or whatever it is. But if you're just making it for vanity's sake, why are you buying bottles and labels? Put that shit in a Ziploc bag and ship it on. If it does not matter to you enough to market it and brand it properly, then yeah, it is a vanity thing. And if it's a vanity thing, then why do you even care about doing it?
And what are you not doing because you're doing that?
Yeah.
What are you not doing? It's the best thing to do is to not do this great idea, or take it to a point that you can satisfy that seed that needs to satisfy. Maybe it's over Christmas. These are your gifts to everybody. You've solved it. It's satisfied this thing. Let this be a limited time thing that you've done, right? What is this thing that satisfies the creative artist in us, but also doesn't detract us from other things that need our time?
That part. Quick question before we wrap this up. How long did it take you to get from flipping burgers to COO to now what you're doing?
It was a lot of stops and starts along the way. I will tell you this though, and I had a fun other couple careers in the middle and did some fun stuff for another podcast and another time. But I will tell you that it took me 10 years when I said, I'm 100% serious. I'm going into management. And I'd done management earlier, and I'd done management, through coffee houses and whatnot. But it was at that point when I said, I'm really ready. And I started my morning manager job. And it was 10 years later that I was COO for a major company. I jumped from director to VP too soon in that run. And that's something that people got to know and understand is sometimes you shouldn't take the job. And I wasn't ready to be a vice president. I didn't understand what that meant when you're talking about a company that's taking in 20 million a year and whatnot. I didn't get it. I like the paycheck idea. So it was a real aggressive when I went really serious, right? Again, I'd been a server for 5 years already. I had been a cook off and on. I'd worked and managed coffee houses. So you'd probably say 20 years off and on. But when I put the pedal to the metal, and then Arrow Up's been around for 5 years.
Okay. And it made me think of something else I want to ask. And I'm asking this because, like I said, there are a lot of people out here that want to grow and scale their restaurant, or they want to have multiple locations and all of that kind of stuff. What type of bandwidth does it take to manage? Because when I was thinking, we were getting ready to open our third before I pulled the plug, said, I'm done. But what type of bandwidth does it take to handle at just the volume of having 5 separate spots?
What do you mean bandwidth for yourself?
For yourself, as being the top dog, being whatever title you give yourself at that level, regional manager or whatever, what type of bandwidth does it take in order to be able to handle something like that? Because I know there are people out there, they have their one spot right now, but it's like, okay, I want to have my own little franchise or whatever, however they want to label it. But I want people to understand that, like I said, we had gotten up to 2 and we're getting ready to open a third, and it's like, yeah, I was not built for this. But what do you have to be built with in order to want to take that step to even open a second, third, fourth, fifth?
All right. So I think it's easier. I think your 5th one's easier than your 2nd one if you do it right.
Sound like you're talking about kids. Oh, the 5th kid is easy.
Yeah. No, gosh, no. And so, scare the crap out of me. So, why? No. Thanks, Mom and Dad, but why? No. Before you go to your 2nd, the key is where you're managing in the business versus on the business, which people have heard. The playbook is this. First thing you need to do before you open up the 2nd one is make it that the place could run that like you're never in the building as far as standard operating procedures. Every standard operating procedure needs to be in place. Document it, build the Bible. That's it. Now, transfer the Bible to something digital so that you can very easily roll it out and monitor that somebody's doing it or not doing it proactively so that you don't have to micromanage them. You give them, the supervisor that came in, you give them the opportunity that they pressed and said, yep, we did the checklist, everything's good. training's in place, everything happens. Do that before you go to number 2. Otherwise, you're always going to be running back. And it's different time, right, than when you had it too. It's just gotten systems, tech stacks. It's a different game to say that we didn't do it first now. Then what you do is you find your awesome supervisors and you start building them up immediately. You find those young players that believe the brand, live the brand, and you start getting them with you and you let them know you're going to come with us. And you have to train your replacement, but you're going to come with us and you're going to be one of the leaders and start to grow with this. And then what you start to do is you activate your culture keepers and you start to get them going. And then they really start to work for you, because if you think middle out, you get so many hours a week back just by having somebody who gives a shit that everybody punched out at the end of the day or in the morning. Because now you're not chasing people's pay that's wrong, because everything stops when the pay's wrong. And so those people care. Middle out approach, they start to build up with you. Then when you get to the third, it's awesome if you can do it, because now you have enough capital coming through, if you can do it, that you have off your management fees. You set up your management fees and you take off the top, that now you have somebody who's overseeing all 3, and you've shared the GMs a little bit. And if you want, you even have hourly. So there's a way that you can kind of tap into each one where you don't have to have 3 full GM salaries on. You mix it a little bit. The reason I love 5 is because now it's not you. You should not be anything in operations. You should be setting up management fee for yourself, and the paying it back to the company. It's not bottom line. It's you putting it back to the company of your people, that now you have people that are growing and they're overseeing the 5, and you're building the business and you're building the brand. From 3 on, try to get as much out of the operations as possible, pay yourself a little bit off a management fee, put everything back towards somebody above the stores, get them to coach people up. By the time you're 5, you're going to be putting out fires and things like that, but you should be building the business, going out to eat, enjoying your community, getting things going. Somebody's rolling their eyes now and be like, yeah, that sounds good. I had to go back to my fucking location because blank didn't show up and the plumbing piped. Okay, I get it. But there's a lot of reactive time that can be minimized. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Owning an operation is about every day waking up and saying, how long till you get kicked in the groin? Yeah. That's what it is. But it's coming, and you just have to be prepared and minimize how hard the kick goes and how long it resonates. How
long you stay down.
Yeah. Why do I meditate? I love meditation and I love Eastern arts because it's less about being like, that didn't suck. Yeah, that sucked. But how quickly can you respond back?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's the recovery period. Yeah. And so get hit, recover, move forward, put things into place. Did that answer and listen, we'll sit, get 5 people. We'll work through the P&Ls of what that looks like, and where you kind of got to rob Paul to pay Peter, and all, I used to say, anyone listening, 2 most important words, cash flow. I get it. I've done it. I know this. 2 most important words probably today is order accuracy, because you're going to lose people, but that's another conversation.
No. When we opened our second restaurant, and mind you, I stole her first. Before we even had our restaurant, I went into a chicken place, and I loved the chick that was behind the counter so much. Her name was Jamie. I said, when I open my spot, I'm coming to get you. And lo and behold, when we opened, that was my first hire. And then trained her up to go run the second restaurant, but trained her so well that one of our regular customers stole her from me. Yeah. And she stole her not to go work in a restaurant, but to go work in a hospital. And this is why I say people don't understand the transferability of their skill set. But stole her from me. I mean, my heart was broken. But it's all of those things that you said. I want people to recognize, especially in the food industry, it's like, sweetie, one, raise your price, because I'm so tired of people talking about, stop it. I'm so tired of people talking about razor thin profit margins and all of that kind of thing. Yes, they're thin, but they can be made fatter. You're allowed to raise your prices if you show the value. And this is why I think branding needs to become a bigger part of what restaurants do in all those different touch points. Because if we talk about price from a positioning standpoint, then you know what? You position your brand for higher prices in your restaurant based on the brand that you're building, not on the concept. And so you get to get off of that razor thin, and might get an inch or two wider, but you get to do that. And it's not based on you being fine dining or in a certain zip code and all of those different things. But then also is the people that are starting these, depending on why you started. If you just started a restaurant because you thought it was easy, fuck you, because it is not.
Or you're a good customer and you think
Oh my
that you
God,
get
yeah.
it.
I can fix that. I know how to run. No, you do not. It is so much more. But there's just so much to the hospitality industry that I want to see grow, and I want to see hospitality come back. Yes, I understand automation is fun and it's great, and it's easier to push a button on a waiter than to send somebody out there who's been crying, or your chick came in with PMS and all this other stuff. Yes, you have to deal with that kind of shit when you deal with people. But there's so much that can then that people bond over food, relationships, first dates, family reunions. There's so much to food that is not about the eating.
Yeah.
And I think people need to gravitate towards that a little more.
Yeah, build the experience, build the
Yes.
vibe, get them in. In addition to raising prices, if they feel that there's the flexibility and it's right to have them push and challenges, are you really getting, without overstepping, because you want them to be a repeat customer, are you really getting all the value out of each guest? Like if it's a full service one of the first things I would go in to do when I was working at restaurants is everything came down to get that first drink on the table. If it's full service, how I would time them. How long till you got the first drink on the table? And it became a competition, because if you got the first drink, then you got the second drink before the entree came, is what your goal was, or right when it came. Because if they start to go in the middle of the meal, then they start to think, are we going to have dessert? Are we not? That second drink is value, because people then think, well, maybe if I don't want to spend as much money this time, I won't have the second drink, right? It's not that this place is expensive. We're drinking a lot there, but then they're going to have the second drink when they go back. So it's looking at it that way. Or I love, if it's quick service or fast casual, grabbing the little terminal and running around to tables if you're not trying to move everybody through, and ask them if they want dessert.
Yeah.
And because they didn't order at the time, and give tasters out and walk around and do these types of things that gets people excited by it. Do you want to spend all of your time trying to get everybody in the door on a Monday, or do you want to try to see if you can get more money out of the pockets of people who are coming on Thursday, Friday, Saturday anyways, because they're already ready to come out and spend?
Yeah.
That's where a lot of the effort needs to go.
Yeah. I would love to go out with you and just have a dinner experience. Like, okay, let's just critique. We're not saying anything bad, but we just like, what do we all see? Because I know we all see something different, especially coming from different parts of the industry and so forth. But sweetie, I love you, and I so appreciate you being here. Is there anything you want to say about Arrow Up, or anything that's coming up and all of that kind of deal?
Where I appreciate that. We're really building a community of restaurant leaders right now. And the way that I'm approaching it is, the team is approaching it is almost like Apple TV, where leaders will sign in and they'll have community-driven content. If you're interested, if you have people that you think will want to share great stories, reach out, Jason at arrowuptraining.com. If you're somebody that wants to be a part of the community, reach out. And I'm on this idea, I can't tell you it's right or wrong yet, but I'm on this idea that instead of learning just within our four walls or just within the brand, that we need to cross over amongst multiple brands. There's a 19-year-old, at Chick-fil-A right now that just knows something that the 19-year-old at Urban Plates needs to hear, and they can share it. And so we're figuring out a way to be omnipresent amongst all of the brands so that they can tap into it, and we can track it so that you know that they're doing it. That's just kind of like this kick that I'm really on and really excited about. So feedback, resources, clients, get involved.
That sounds amazing though. And it's learning how certain generations handled certain things. Because like my 16-year-old, I think she made reference to something about, why are you Googling? Just go look them up on YouTube. It's like, seriously? They're moving away from Google and they're using YouTube as their research.
Right.
And it's like, wow, that kind of slapped me in the face. I'm like, get out, just get out. I don't like teenagers anymore. But sweethearts, like I said, hospitality is near and dear to my heart. People come to town saying they're coming. I'm like, I will make Neil cook for you. I'm not gonna cook, but I will let Neil cook for you because I love hospitality and I love the whole family vibe around food. But y'all know I got shit to do. So 5, bullshit happens. So suck it up. 4, your voice is important. So speak up. 3, you make the world a more beautiful place. So show up. 2, life is good. So buck up. And 1, I love you and ain't a damn thing you can do about it. So shut the fuck up. Peace and hair grease, y'all. I'm out.
All right, brand babies. We appreciate you stopping by because we know you got shit to do. Just remember to subscribe on your way out and bring a friend next time. In the meantime, and in between time, stay connected with your brand mother on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The links are in the description. And your grandmother wants you to remember that personal branding is not just personal, it's also business.